Okay, well we did both FMOD and Wwise, which are two separate softwares that both fall under the category, of procedural audio. They both use procedural audio. And procedural audio is used when creating music and sounds for a non-linear environment. It's unlike a DAW where you can just have, a pre-recorded song or something like that. It's very well conducive for games where the player kind of changes the environment. So if the player is in a valley and then goes to the ocean or something, triggering going to the ocean will change the sound production. So that's basically what it does. It uses algorithms for this process. And like I said, both FMOD and Wwise integrate this.
So I focus on researching FMOD, which stands for Firelight Module Player, and it is middleware, which means that it is used for making audio to add to other media outside of it, kind of like, I guess, a bridge in designing things. And it has a DAW-like interface, and it was difficult for me to find an origin story on it, even on their home website, but it started in the late 90s as just a module player. And the strength of FMOD is that you don't need programming knowledge in order to begin using it. And it is free to download for non-commercial use, or if you are an indie developer with a budget under a certain amount. I think it's $5,000 for your game. It also comes with examples of sounds, and there are some tutorials on the website for importing sounds into games in engines like Unity. But the weaknesses of FMOD is that in order to see the download size or actually download the studio, you have to register on their website first, and you also need to have game engines installed in order to actually import your sounds that you design into the game. And so you'd have to know how to use those engines as well before. It started as a module player and nowadays mainly focuses on being used for sound design in video games as an application, but I think there's also the possibility of interactivity and adaptive sound for art, like live performances, or even using a creative instrument of some sort that you can interact with, like switches and buttons, like creating events where it'll make certain sounds or activate something depending on what the user does. For capstone project application ideas, I was thinking that the most obvious idea could be to just make a little game in an engine like Unity and then create some sound effects and events and adaptive media for the game. But some research or learning I have to do outside of that first is actually learning how to use a game engine of some sort, which might require some programming depending on what you're using, as well as needing to learn some 3D modeling and animation for things in the game. As for investments that Stetson would need to make, it's free to use for the most part. so you wouldn't really need to spend anything on FMOD, and it could possibly be installed on the lab computers. That's what we were thinking. So I made a demo of adaptive sound because I was inspired by a tutorial about adaptive sound using footstep sound effects that came with it that would change depending on like where the user is, like what kind of surface they're standing on in the game. It would change what sounds are playing. But I did something similar but with door sound effects, like whether a door was opening or closing, use different door sounds. And when I recorded it, it didn't record anything outside of FMOD Studio, so sometimes when I'm opening something to find sound files, it's just hovering over invisible stuff. I had to start a new event here and make a timeline to put the audio files in, and I used something called a multi-instrument that would let me I put multiple sounds into 2 different places in different sets of values. Like the first one is where I'm going to put the closed door sounds, and so depending on what value is active, it would let you play certain kinds of door sounds. But it acts different from just a regular timeline because the time isn't actually passing. Like it's not just going to move and then play each of those sounds. I also had it on shuffle, so it would just play through like random sounds in the multi-instrument.
Where was this at?
It's actually running, so if you Command Tab, you should be able to get back to. No, that's from earlier today. Oh, where is PowerPoint?
No.
That's
Oh,
not.
browser. PowerPoint never even opened.
Huh. Go back to.
Go back to Safari.
Go back to the Safari. And
Is it
on the
on-
other procedural audio.
No, the procedural audio tab is it. But
Oh, maybe
Where is
it
it?
turned into the YouTube
Oh, maybe.
tab or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry, you'd think I'd be better with this in a digital environment here. Okay, so we also did Wwise. Let's see. Very similar to FMOD in its strengths and weaknesses, kind of how it's used. It was created by Audiokinetic, and they said it was to help audio programmers and sound designers provide truly immersive gaming experiences. The first version of this was released in 2006 and was used in MGS's Shadowrun. And then after that, I believe it was 2012, where it was commercially released, and now many, many games use this. Wwise was also created as middleware to script the sound behavior, so it's a link between your DAW where you're creating your sounds, it's the bridge into your game platform. And it also works with Unity Game Engine very well. So it is also free, and Wwise is a little bit different than FMOD. I know for FMOD you have to download the actual FMOD program and then also the launcher. So there's multiple aspects of that, but for Wwise it is just one program that you would have to download. Another strength is that, you know, using this you would get experience in the program that most game developers use nowadays. They also offer lessons and videos for the certification process on their website. It's very helpful, and they go over many different aspects, from the sound specifically to the game development and working with the visuals and things like that. And it's also deployable to multiple platforms, like PS4, Xbox, iOS, different things like that. One weakness is that the certification actually costs about $200, which, give or take, isn't necessarily a weakness if you need that in your career. But for our purposes at Stetson, we wouldn't maybe need to get certified if we wanted to just work with the program. Some aspects of this also use C++ programming, but I think the website said about 90% of it does not include the programming aspect, so you could get away with not having the programming experience. And again, like FMOD, in order to actually integrate the sounds into your games, you would need a game engine. So if we were to download FMOD or Wwise to our computers, we would also need something like Unity, which Unity is also free. So that is a plus for both.
I think the computers do have Unity installed too.
Do they?
They
I
should.
don't know about anything else.
Okay. Well, that's what Wwise is best used in, so I guess that's a good application for that. But the middleware was intended for use in developing video games, but is now also used in vehicle technology for Bluetooth calls and things like that. And I think personally this technology is really great for a capstone project. You get the hands-on learning experience in this sort of audio environment, but you also have to get used to the visual aspects and different technologies that we wouldn't experience in maybe this specific class. Let's see. Oh, it's also great for VR experiences. I know that is a little bit different than like a controller-based game, and could also be used for spatial audio with interactive art, like you were saying about FMOD. And again, since this is middleware, the user would benefit from an understanding of using DAWs as well as game engines, since this is just a bridge between the two. Stetson would not have to make any additional investments in order for students to use the basics of this technology, because we would be educational purposes, we would be using them for educational purposes, so that's also free. We also wouldn't be a AAA game developer, with a budget of that high to be able to purchase this. So it is free for non-commercial and educational purposes. And then other integration systems like Unity, again, are also free to download with free assets as well, because Unity alone is just plain in the program itself, but you can also download like trees to put in your game or things like that that are also free that we could work with. And the only stipulation would be that Stetson would need to make an account with Audio Kinetic to be able to download all of their specific software and things. Okay. This is a video integrated into this PowerPoint. I mean, I could play it on my laptop, but...
Yeah, are you sure you upload? Yeah, well, I know we're having trouble with it already, but what do you want to do? Do you want to just connect do you have an HDMI port on there or no?
Yes.
Connect that real quick.
Where is it?
We dropped one from the other group. Yeah. No, that's USB. That's HDMI there.
Ah.
And when you connect it, it should. We might not get. Well, sound would need to switch here. Put sound in. It's not. Nope. I don't get a signal.
that? No, that's the teaching station.
Mhm.
I'm not getting a signal from your laptop though. Try unplugging and plugging back in. Okay. We're gonna have to go without because I'm also looking at time as well.
Okay.
So
I can skip the video or play it like that.
let's
I know.
let's skip the video. Let's just wrap up. Then,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
All right, so I'll just.
Let's,
So the video was me doing my demo. I've also included a demo from their actual website, but I did more of the DAW aspect, creating the sound to transport it into the game system. But then this is an example of a more in-depth sort of thing that you can do with the actual game part. And this is a free game that they give you to work in. But yeah, my demo just dealt with creating the sound banks to put in the actual games. So basically, the three main points that we kind of have is that both FMOD and Wwise use procedural audio techniques. They're both middleware, requiring other applications to integrate their audio, and Stetson could only benefit from implementing this software in the toolbox of the digital arts department. And then that's where it's at.
Questions for this week? Yeah.
So, to implement FMOD, is that a separate download from Wwise?
Yes, they're two separate. They kind of
Because
deal
I
with
know
the same
we
thing.
had Wwise in the past, but I think with Denke being on sabbatical, it wasn't added this year, which I can, because we do have an account for it. FMOD, where would I go to download it?
Oh, there's a website.
You don't have to show me, just tell me there's a
Yeah,
web.
it's just called fmod.com, really.
Okay, and does it require account?
It does.
Yeah, it's a, I think, is it email and password that you choose to create the account? And then you can,
So you don't have to verify that you're an education institution or a student, it just lets you create the free account?
yeah.
Okay. In the future, if you guys ever see anything like this again, what you can do is you can email me, my work email, support@Stetson, include your professor, and say, we would like this in the digital arts image, and that will start the dialogue to, adapt the lab to your needs. So, very good.
I think that'd be great to kind of bring together the audio and then visual aspects of digital arts for everyone.
Well, so what I heard you say is that FMOD might be an easier entry point, but then Wwise has a higher ceiling in terms of like a lot more professional studios use Wwise. So with those balancing these two things, is the answer to like put FMOD on the image because it's an easier entry point and people can kind of get started with it, or is it better to just jump in with the tool that is the industry standard? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, from my perspective, if we have training working in a DAW beforehand, it would be easier to integrate Wwise. It's less so a DAW look than FMOD, but with that training, I think it's still doable because there's still the templates across the screen that you can kind of deal with, and there'd be a learning curve, but I did it pretty quickly from my experience in all these classes so far. But you might have a different perspective.
Do you have a different perspective, Anthony?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, and if it's easy enough to get both, we can just add both. I mean, how much hard drive space are we talking about? Did you find out that?
My Wwise was 200 megabytes alone, just the program, but then everything that you add obviously adds.
Yeah, there's a whole library that goes with Wwise. Like Unity, it's like a couple hundred megabyte software, but then the just the base library that Denke instructs me to download is like around 20 gigs.
Wow. Yeah. So.
It's the libraries. How they go.
The assets.
Yeah, I couldn't find that information. I could only find what was downloaded onto.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Any? Yeah, Sebastian.
Last question. Do you know how long the certification lasts?
For Wwise,
Yeah.
8 weeks. You can take the, there are training courses, and then the actual $200 payment is for the quiz at the end. So you can take as long as you want, but it typically lasts 8 weeks, and then taking the quiz will give you the certification in the program.
I mean, the certification itself, though.
Oh.
Like, how long does that last?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think...
Probably until the next version comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. That's like part of the whole troubleshooting thing. I was saying that staying current.
Yeah.
You can have it, but if you don't have it with the current version.
Right. Hopefully, though, if you've got the certification, then you'd be employed, and then your employer would pay for you to recertify. Yeah, that would be the
Well, because if it lasts X amount of time, wondering if it's worth having that certification as part of a capstone of a course based around this.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Okay.
That's a good point.
All right, let's give a round of applause.